Aloha. Aloha Ke Akua. Aloha Aina. Malama Pono. Amene. So, today I'm going to talk about the law of manifestation. And we're going to give this one away, more or less, so conditional permission is given. Copyright 2025, Benjamin Lipman, conditional permission to copy, share, and distribute. Permission is conditionally given to distribute per share-alike license, e.g., with full attribution. This permission is conditional and subject to change. No permission is given to modify the content. I do not give permission to apply my content or likeness in any form to any application involving artificial intelligence. And that's across the board, everything I do. Anyway, this is another installment early on in this channel A. And so there's a channel B that's more R-rated, but this is just basic information. The law of manifestation, what is that? Basically, we live in a free will universe, and in this free will universe, let's kick up the light a little bit. We basically have a soul, and that's where we have the free will. The mind-body, in my medical science, in Ayurveda, in Vedic culture, the understanding is that the mind-body is basically mechanical, that the universe is largely mechanical, and even in quantum mechanics, deeper understanding is that there's a wave function of the entire universe, which is a very profound idea. It's analog, actually, and on that analog wave function there are charges just floating around that what came out of the process of the Big Bang, the great cosmic Om, but there's this wave function of structure riding on top of the gravitational structure of the universe, which also carries waves. But that's all analog. It's like infinite range of possibilities. It's not digital. Some people think it's all digital. It's not true. And yet, it is all, if you will, that physical manifestation, the five-element manifestation of the universe, an aspect of God. But there's more. Wait, there's more, right? So in the other video, the introduction video, I introduced this idea of the two axes, right? There's the horizontal axis, which is the five-element reality. Then there's a vertical axis, which has to do with the subtle realms and our consciousness, and that's where our soul comes in. So our soul drops in, we're born, and we live in a free will universe. We get to choose. Now, obviously, we have constraints, right? I have a body, I have to eat, shit, sleep every day. Whatever the constraints are, I have to get along with other people, grow food, be on property somehow. All of us, right? And then how we treat other people, enormously important. And this is where actually channel B, what was channel B? Now I'm wondering about this. I think I wrote this in November, but presented it on the 8th of January, Principles of Governance, introducing channel B. We might get into that because that relates, right? How we deal with other people, very, very important. And I'm going to be doing another piece on some ideas for the Middle East, and I'm sort of pushing myself to get this out because I don't know, I have this mana'o, some idea, it might work, and why it might be important to think about these things in a different way. But back to the law of manifestation, right? The law of manifestation, what is that? That is a universal principle about how things arise when we have choice. And the basic principle is that you have to decide what you really want the most. And once you do that, then other things that might have been blocking you, you let go of those so that you can have what you want. And there's a core principle in Buddhism and also in the Gita in Vedic, in Hinduism, of attachment. Very core principle in Buddhism. If we're attached to something, then we're holding on to it, and that prevents us from doing things that letting go of it might allow. So for instance, if I'm deeply attached to money, then I might not actually turn toward God or toward a saintly life, or the saints. Because the saints, see, they left their bodies, but they're here if we ask for them. They're available to us, but we have to turn to them. Buddha, same. Jesus, same. Any deity, any divine power, we have to orient to that, right? So we have to be on the vertical. Now, a lot of people are just living on the horizontal, and unfortunately, because a lot of people are attached and so greedy, right? They're willing to oppress people to the point where a lot of people on earth right now don't have enough food. Children don't know if they're going to have dinner tomorrow. And given our situation on this earth, our state of civilization and technology, that's basically a crime. If you go in your heart and just touch there, you're like, that's wrong. We have billionaires. Why? Why do we have, there's no reason to have people with $1 billion when they're starving children. There's something wrong, right? So someone who's willing to have children starving at to oppress people to the point where they're starving so that they can amass a big, that's a lot of zeros, dollar balance, let's say dollars. Something's wrong, right? They don't understand what's important in existence. They're so attached to that number. And maybe more power and control to greed itself. I don't know, it's confusing. Why would someone be that way? Now, if you're like making people suffer, how can you possibly have deep joy in your life? In the origin of our country, the United States of America, there was an expression, liberty or death. Freedom was valued. People fought for that. And people have fought for democracy in different countries and this country. A lot of blood has been shed to protect my freedom that I have right now. There are apparently people and forces who wish to suppress that. No kidding, like in a surprising way. Going down that road, that's our channel, that's the B channel, that's R-rated, it's there, there's already material there. But this is not, this is for everybody. So basic civics, a lot of people fought to give us the United States of America with basic freedoms, the right to pursue happiness. Now, if you believe other people's lies, if you allow yourself to believe other people's lies, like white people are better than brown people, or brown people are better than black people, or Christians are better than Muslims, or Muslims are better than Christians, or whatever those stories about one person actually just fundamentally being somehow superior and having more rights than another person, that's wrong. That's a lie. Because we all are humans. We all have souls. We all have basic rights. And that's the basic principle of civil liberties on earth, and defended. And the more developed civilizations, the more developed people, the people who actually know God, who are actually with, say, Jesus, they know this in their hearts. They know it's true. They just know it. It's true. All people are good people fundamentally. Some people are lost, confused. Try to bring them on the path. And every child has a right to basic food, medicine, education, roof, safety, love. Every human being has that as a fundamental right. And the day we really recognize that and make it happen, we have the means. That's when we begin to evolve into the next iteration of human society. We're just not there right now. But there's so much in play right now and so much up in the air, and we've got this internet. Everyone's being educated. Maybe now is when we really make a concrete step toward that. I think it's possible. I'm not giving up on that. I'm more than that. I'm actively advocating it. I'm trying to live that way in my own life. Yes, there's some money that flows through my life, but I'm pretty careful. I eat quality food, but not more than I need. But I do take care of myself. I try to share as much as I can, and then I've cultivated knowledge and I don't maybe say wisdom or something. So I want to share that, and I want to do it in a way that can't be manipulated or controlled or make a billionaire a lot of money, right? Because that's not helpful. I want to share this with people, with humanity. And then I'm asking, oh yes, I forgot. If you like me, right now this is a way to support me doing this, whatever this is. We'll see where this goes. I'm really naive and malahini on this stuff, this kind of game, this technology, and then technology has gotten pretty friggin' weird lately, so I'm just working my way through as best I can. So, the law of manifestation, another principle, basic principle, is that energy follows awareness. So that's a fundamental principle. It applies on the horizontal and the vertical. So energy follows awareness. Just look at the stock market. Markets flow where the energy is going. People get excited about a company or a business idea or whatever. They put money in it, and the market reflects that. If people like a certain style of clothing, they want to buy that, and then it becomes more valuable. People want more of it, whatever it may be. Any material, any commodity. Energy follows awareness. The same thing applies in the vertical realm. If you want to become a more pure person, you focus on that and you look and, okay, what am I attached to? Do I hold shame that's holding me back? What are the shackles that bind me? In the Gita, there's the iron shackle, the silver shackle, the gold shackle, the physical body, iron, the emotional shackle, the emotions, and the golden shackle, the intellect. And then I introduce an idea of a spiritual ego, the diamond shackle, which is really an aspect of the golden shackle. But it is more difficult because if you think you have spiritual attainment, if you're attached to that, that's very subtle and dangerous. That will block you. So that's actually the most difficult one. If you think you're smart, well, there's an attachment to that. That's actually very difficult too. That's a trap as well. If you're in some emotional reaction, that's going to be a problem. And that's kind of what we're dealing with right now in the world. And I'll be talking about the situation in the Middle East. Biden very wisely told Israel, look, we overreacted in 9/11. We went too far. It was a problem. And then we had to deal with the situation in Afghanistan, and it didn't go very well to this day. Be mindful. Well, that's not really what happened. The right wing in Israel went really far and activated, and everybody was activated in this silver shackle and the emotional reaction to a terrible event. And I'll talk more about that. But now we have a situation where there's basically we have a genocide, right? And so the legitimacy of Israel in the world stage has been compromised because of an overreaction. Now, there's an existential threat for Israel. I get that. Actually, on the planet right now, we have an existential threat because of, if nothing else, more players in the nuclear weapons arena. So obviously Iran and North Korea. So it's difficult. The law of manifestation, how do we make something happen? How do we make peace happen? There was a treaty to manage the nuclear proliferation issue, particularly with Iran. Unfortunately, it was decided by the man who is now our president again to put the kibosh on that. Why? Well, maybe another party was involved. We're getting into R-rated perhaps there. But the law of manifestation is, what are you attached to that's keeping you from having what you want? So, for instance, if I want a job, maybe I have a choice of different jobs and I have to choose which one I want. And maybe what I really want is to have more time with my family. So what I really want is maybe make a little less money, only work 4 days a week, and have a short commute. Maybe that's what I really want. Or maybe I need to send my kids to college and I actually need to work 5 days a week and I'm going to commute a little more because I can make twice as much money because I need to send my boy to college and that's my value because I want to pay it forward because my father sent me to college. Whatever those choices are, right? And so in my case, I eat a little bit of fish, I eat a little bit of animal protein, but I really am uncomfortable with animal husbandry. I'm very uncomfortable with, basically it's just not even of interest to me at all to eat an animal that has pranayama, that breathes air. It just, for some reason, it's just ick. I just have no interest, right? And so that's, somehow that's my choice. It works for me. I'm at peace with it. I feel more peaceful in my heart. And yet, fish are intelligent on some level, and I do eat some fish. But I'm careful what fish I eat. If possible, I try not to have farm fish or fish that have been pumped up with chemicals. Maybe fish that have had a nice life. Or lower on the food chain, shrimp. But I don't need to eat fish every day. So we all have to just make those choices. But right now in the United States, I think people have to decide, do they want to live in a democracy or not? How important is the rule of law to you? This is really important because it is to me. Democracy, freedom, the rule of law, these are really, really fundamental things. And if we give that away to a dictator person, an authoritarian person, they're unlikely to give it back. Them and the people around them, this is the history, they're not going to give away that power. They're not going to give it back. They're going to just maintain their status quo. And that's a very important basic civics thing. And for a long time, the United States was a stalwart defender of democracy throughout the world. And something happened. And I think that something has to do with concentration of power and wealth, basically. No, it was always there. The true civil rights in our country have been aspirational. We still don't have an equal rights amendment in the United States. But maybe all of this foment that's happening is giving those of us who really understand how important these things are a chance to really take a stand, and maybe we make some repair. So I don't know if I have more to say about that. Except there's this fundamental polarity between love, God, love, and greed, or it can be hatred. But it's this choice. How do you want to live? Do you want to live focused in the material realm? Or do you want to live focused in this beauty that surrounds, this subtle beauty that's not the physical realm, that's what our souls truly are? So I'm trying to put a little bit of some cool material in each session. In this one, I just happened to turn to the Bible and found this one passage, which was interesting because in the previous episode of this channel, the introduction, I was reading from Matthew, and then startlingly, I turned to Luke 16, the parable of the shrewd manager, which seems really apt. Jesus told his disciples, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer. The manager said to himself, what shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses. So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, how much do you owe my master? This is Luke 16. 800 gallons of olive oil, he replied. And with this book, this is an old book, so we have to just kind of roll with this. And by the way, I'm new at all of this. And what I see is that the New Testament, it's a little bit more clear and direct. The Old Testament actually is common with, it's the first 5 books of the Torah, the Old Testament, and the Quran are basically, they have a lot of, it's the same material, it's the same part of the world, same people really. That's what's astounding in a way, that there's so much conflict, and it's because people are fighting about land and money. It's about greed, obviously. Okay, so we called in each of the debtors. The first one said, how much do you owe? 800 gallons of olive oil. The manager told him, take your bill, sit down quietly, and make it 400. Then he asked the second, and how much do you owe? 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. Okay. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. And there's something to that, like people who are really focused on the divinity in the world, they're usually not very sharp at business. It's just not their priority, right? They're in the vertical. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. This is the master. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. I think that's true in my experience, is that the people who live in integrity, they live in integrity. That's who they are. And if people who lie and cheat and steal on little stuff, they're going to lie and cheat and steal on the big stuff, maybe even more, right? Just how it is. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? I'm pretty sure this is, Jesus. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, Who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? Now in Hawaii we have this old idea of kuleana, where the king would trust someone with responsibility for a parcel of land, and they would be responsible for taking care of it, and then if they didn't, it could be taken away by the king. And here we are. No servant can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. You have to choose in the law of manifestation, God or money. One is the priority. And I talk about that in the other episode a little bit. The Pharisees, who loved money, heard all this and were sneering at Jesus. He said to them, "You are the ones who justify yourselves in the eyes of men." These are men who love money. "But God knows your hearts. What is highly valued among men," and he's talking about the men who love money, "is detestable in God's sight. Because in the pursuit of money you will hurt people. You will do things that are against what is divine, what is worthy, what is good." So Luke 16. And interestingly, that bit shows up again, right? Because it's a universal principle, and that, my friends, is part of the law of manifestation. You have to choose what you value most and make that the priority in your life, and then you can have it. And that will come possibly at the expense of the other. But if you choose the vertical with fellowship, together in communion, in community, you will love each other, you will take care of each other, and then 1 + 1 might be 3. Because not only will you have abundance and enough and support each other in times of scarcity and balance your skills and support each other in this field of love, you get to be in the love and light, and also you will be with the saints, the angels, and the Buddhas, the deities, the divine field. And your life, you will know true joy. If you're chasing the wealth, if you're living a life of greed and hatred and avarice, you actually, by this basic principle, you cannot know true joy. And then at the moment of your death, if you're still there, you're done. There will be no Buddhas or angels. There will be no divine for you, because you are attached. You've locked yourself out of the divinity, of the possibility of this eternal life, this transmigration of souls that is actually possible in the divine field. And once you know that, life is completely different. In India, the term moksha means freedom. So when you have become liberated, you understand this law of manifestation fully in all its glory, right? So yeah, we have to live in the world, we have to do commerce and all of that, but that's kind of secondary. There's another reality that's much more interesting and precious and valuable. We live in that, we are more of that. In fact, we are that much more. We walk the earth, but we live in this divine field fully, and we feel all, we know all. We are living in full choice and have all options. We are free. That's true freedom, and that's irregardless of whatever happens. You can be in prison and be liberated in that way, but it's much more pleasant to live as a free person having choice. So wherever you are in the world, support democracy, vote for good